Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Chris. I'm a graphic designer based in Melbourne, and today I'm going to be showing you a really exciting process in which I took to create some vector art of Bumblebee the Transformer. Now, I'm not a huge Transformer fan, but I do love detail, and I thought tracing a photo of some form of robot would kind of test me really well, and so I found a photo on Pinterest and I went with it. I'm going to just show you guys a few of the tips in which I kind of kept in my head when I was creating this, whether it was the line art or the coloring process, and then I'll show you some speed art of how I went about it. So without further ado, let's jump into the computer and I'll show you how it all went. Alrighty, so tip number one when creating your outlines, because I was only using the pen tool here, I'm just going to tell you a few things that I had in mind. Now, just to keep it quick, if we go grab our pen tool over here, I was basically just clicking everywhere in which I thought was a defined area, whether it was a shape of the car or a shade on the actual character. So I grab my pen tool, I'm just drawing a shape here. Let's make it black, and say the stroke's about 5. You go over here to your variable width profile and you just use width profile 4. Now, as you can see here, it creates a very nice kind of thick stroke to thin stroke, which basically creates a lot of depth, and I was using that a lot throughout the whole process of my outlining stage. Now, obviously, you're going to want to have the image in a little bit of an opaque setting just behind your tracing so that you know where you're tracing, obviously. And the only other tip that I'd give you that I maintained consistently whilst doing my outlining was the fact in which, and I'll just take this off, the fact in which when I was outlining the actual body of the car, as you can see here, I was just using a thicker stroke. It was around 2 to 3 point, as opposed to when I was doing the outline on the actual face. This is just purely because I wanted to, I didn't want to express as much detail in the car, and I knew that when I was going to color it in, I wasn't going to be going really fine on the detail, but in contrast to that, the actual face itself has a lot more thinner and elegant lines, I guess, a lot more sharpness going on. That is because when I do go and color it in, I'm going to aim to put as much detail in that as possible. So without further ado, I'm going to show you guys the speed art of how I did it, and yeah, I'll see you on the flip side. Alrighty, so that was basically some speed art of my outline, making sure that you're very careful with where you're drawing the lines, obviously keeping in mind where you want to draw your color later on. And this is the result that I ended out with, and that's what I turned it into. So how did I go about this? Really, there's no rule book. A lot of the photos that you actually get off Pinterest are very pixelated, especially when you're zooming in. So you actually kind of got to just wing it here and there. And I literally, honestly winged it. In some areas, this is where I actually started. It's very detailed. Soon realized that it wasn't sustainable and it was going to take way too long. And so as I came around the body, as I said before, I was keeping the shapes a lot bigger, just to emphasize that these aren't the places that you want to be looking at. When I got to the face itself, as I said, the outlines that I was creating were very finite, small, and sharp. And as you can see, I've applied a lot of detail into these areas just to convey that, you know, this is the robotics area. This is where I want my viewers to be looking at the most. Some other tips, I guess, I'm always connecting my colored points to the actual outline points. So if I can show an example in here on the chin, you've got my outline coming out and around like a wave, and as you can see, the color lifts off it, comes around just to evoke the sense that this is a metal object and it's shining, and then it's coming over here, bit sharpness, and then it comes and it joins back onto the stroke, almost as if it's just sliding back on. I applied that knowledge, I applied that same tactic to a lot of the artwork that I was doing. And yeah, if you just keep those kind of things in mind, make sure you're always sending your color to the back, just so that it's easier. Then you can, if you persist and you practice, you'll end out with something like this. Obviously, there are a lot more techniques that I do utilize, but I'm going to save those for another video later. So once again, I'm about to show you guys the speed art of how I did this. This time, it's not all over the place. I actually soon figured out how to video record with a fixed window, which is very exciting for me actually. And yeah, I hope you enjoy.
Yo.